Good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin Starkey, the Managing Director and owner of Darkwood Studio Record Label Service, First Nations Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander record label service in Australia. Today, I would like to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional owners of the country in which we're performing and recording on today, which are the Gubbi Gubbi and Kabi Kabi language groups. I would like to take this moment to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and future. I would also like to take this time to pay my respects to the off-country elders, past, present and future, and emerging families that have been brought to this country and now live and exist within this country. I'd like to take this moment to thank everybody for respecting the culture of the Gubbi Gubbi Kabi Kabi language groups. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea, the Creative Director of Turn Up Sunshine Coast Music Industry Conference, and I'm here today with Lucas from Zabrishan. Hi Lucas.
Hello.
And we are going to talk all things grant writing. Zabrishan is really keen to secure a grant for some of the activities they have coming up, and I thought it'd be nice if we had a little bit of a chat to learn more about what to do when applying for a grant. Over to you, Lucas.
Thank you. So I have a question, Andrea. What type of activities can you seek funding for?
Okay, so it's a really great question. And the types of activities you can look for with funding, broadly professional development. So that would be things like learning a new skill. So it might be a fairly famous person is coming to town, maybe from overseas. They're giving some workshops in your particular instrument, and you might attend those workshops. It might be more about the business of music. Mm-hmm. So you're learning something about the business, so touring, for example. It might be mentoring, so securing a mentor who can work with you long-term for, many months, mm-hmm. And helping progress your career a little bit further. Then one of the others is broadly projects. So that could be things like recording a new album, so making new works. It could be the promotion of an album. There's also touring grants, and they could be for things like regional touring, where it can be quite costly in Australia. Obviously, we've got a large country. Going to, say, WA or going out into the regions. And those grants are really for the touring and also for the benefit of the community. So you might, when you're there in that town, give a little music workshop, for example, to the local community as part of that touring grant. And then there's other things like scholarships, bursaries, so that might get you overseas somewhere to do some learning. The professional development grants do that as well, but they're more broad in that it could be local or it could be interstate or it could be overseas. The bursaries and the scholarships may get you into a course or may get you a visit overseas to learn something new. So they're the broad areas that there are grants for. Then there's also some business grants that are not arts-based, so you'd be competing with other businesses. So, for example, there's small business entrepreneur grants, and they might get you, say, 3 months with intensive with a marketing person that can help you progress the marketing for your music business, which is always really helpful, or a business coach or a technical person. So they're great as well, but they're not music specific or art specific grants.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you very much. Can you suggest some great resources to help out with the writing process?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Arts Queensland has some great resources on their website called Arts Acumen. And if you have a look on there, they have a whole lot of stuff around grants, and particularly the wording and the types of areas that you would look for. So, for example, you might be asked about your visibility as an artist, and those resources will dig into the types of things that the grants assessors would be looking for when you answer those questions. So they're really great. The federal government has a portal that lists a lot of the grants on it, and that's really helpful as well. There are other portals. There's an organisation called Our Community. They have a grants portal as well. It does cost, and it's quite expensive. But you find that most grant writers and a lot of councils and a lot of community organisations subscribe to that. So if you're a member of that organisation, or if you go to seek help from them, they might be able to tell you the grants that are coming up that are on that portal. Very few artists would actually subscribe to that one. Then anything else is really stuff that you already probably have. So it might be a Dropbox or Google Drive or another cloud-based system where you can collect everything up. I use Google Drive a lot with my clients because then they can see the work that I'm doing on their grant writing. If I make a mistake, I might say the artist's been around for 5 years and it's 6, and they can come in and go, hey, let's change that. But they can also contribute to the writing as well. So I might ask them a question, and they can put that answer into the Google Drive, and then I can work it into their grant. That means if artists are just applying themselves, they can do the same collectively for their band. They can collectively look at that work. Then you can store all the other assets in there as well. So I really like Google Drive, but you could also use a Dropbox or a cloud-based system as well. Then the other resources definitely have to have a calculator. And I use Excel a lot. So I do all my budgets in Excel. I do all my project, the plans and the calendars in Excel spreadsheets. So yeah, it's not a lot, but they're the most useful things that you can have.
Budgeting is important, is it?
Budgeting is really important, and that's something that we should touch on.
Yes.
So definitely you need some way of putting your budget together, and I think Excel's the best way, because you can use your Excel and add up your columns and fiddle around. I have a template that I use, so I use that template with all my clients, and it's got the main things that you would be applying for in that template. So for example, there might be salaries and wages. Say if it's for a tour, there'd be equipment costs. There would be accommodation, travel costs, per diems for food. There's there might be costuming, and you could put all those in that as headings in that Excel spreadsheet. Save it, and then every time you're applying for something that's similar, you've already got that pre-populated with that information. So I find that really useful.
Andrea, do you need a plan to apply for grants?
Yes, absolutely, you do. I think it would take about 4 to 6 weeks for me to really write a great application for somebody. So if you are new to it, it's probably going to take 2 months to 2.5 months. Sounds like a lot of time. And obviously that's not 24/7. Where the time is taken up is that for most grants you need a letter of support, and that's a letter from someone from the community. So it might be from an arts organisation, so from Q Music, APRA, somebody like that, maybe a local politician, a venue, or industry professional that's worked with you, and they can take a lot of time because those people are fairly busy, and it's not a priority for them. So it's a priority for you but not for them. So I always do that first, and in my experience, some people are really great at it because they're applying for grants themselves, so they understand how important it is, and they will do it straight away. And particularly if you supply them as much information as you can about what you're trying to apply for and the types of sentences and the words you need from them. But some can take weeks. And the longest I've had is 8 weeks waiting for a letter, asking them every week. That was a fairly busy person, and you can't push too much. So definitely you need a plan. I think using those grants portals, so particularly the government one, signing up to lots of newsletters from lots of arts organisations because they will tell you what grants are coming up, making a little bit of a calendar and saying, okay, this will really fit this particular project. So when you guys mentioned to me earlier that you're wanting to record and put out some recordings, you might say, well, we want a grant to pay for some promotion for that, and here's something that's coming up in X amount of weeks and it looks like it would fit.
Yeah.
And then you can put all the assets you need together for that and be ready to go when that grant opens. You also need a plan because it is a long process from writing, then submitting, waiting to hear whether you've been successful, and then being able to actually implement that project. So it might be up to 2 to 3 months down the track. So for example, I'm looking at one at the moment for a client that closes in March, and you won't actually be notified for that one until June next year. So that's a really long-term plan, a long-term project for her.
Yeah.
And you cannot start the project beforehand. So that's one of the big keys with understanding grants. And that's because the grants bodies don't want you to come back and say, well, we thought we were going to get that grant. We've started the project. We've spent money. We actually don't have the money to pay those bills now, and it's your fault. So, which it obviously isn't, but people do think that way.
Yeah.
So pretty much all grants are very clear on you cannot spend that money until you've been notified whether you're successful, and they will obviously look at invoices and dates on invoices and things around that. So it is a really long-term planning process, which means that for a band you've also got to plan maybe 12 months ahead what are the activities that you're going to undertake as a band, and which ones would we be potentially looking at applying for funding for.
Andrea, what assets or collateral do you need?
Okay, so what you actually need to apply for a grant, and a lot of this is collateral that you can save into a folder and keep to reuse over and over again. You will need a band bio, which you'll probably already have, but often with some of the grants they have a page limit, so you have to look at having maybe more than one copy of your bio to fit, the various page limits for the various grants. So some of them might be a 1-pager and your bio's 2 pages.
Yeah.
So you just got to cut it down a bit.
Yeah.
Some good photos is great, some video footage, some audio, depending on what you're applying for. So if it's a touring grant, for example, you might need penciled in dates for your tour. That's not a confirmation. It's just, you've spoken to this venue and they're keen to have you there. So it's definitely not confirmation. So all those sort of things, other than the dates, you probably have anyway. And you just, I suggest to people just keep them in a folder somewhere, update them as need. Other things are really good testimonials. So you might have had some reviews by a journalist about a gig. Keep some of those. Even reviews from punters is great.
Yeah.
Because they can be added in to the application. And then other things you may need, depending on the grant, you may actually need written quotes, and that would have to be on the business's letterhead. So if you're going for a promotion grant for promoting a single, you might need a quote from the marketing person that's going to be assisting you on that. You may need some letters of confirmation for people working with you. So again, that marketing person would write a little short letter saying, I confirm that I've discussed this project with Zabrishan, and we are, my company is ready and willing to undertake that project when it's all go. Then other things you may need, you will need for a lot of the grants what's called letters of support, and those letters of support are from the community, and they are essential in some of the grants, in fact most of them, to show that you have a certain standing in the industry, because most arts grants are about emerging or professional artists. They're not for amateurs.
Yeah.
So the assessors who are assessing that grant, who are really peers, they're people that are working in the arts sector, they will want to see that you are either a professional in your field or you're working towards that. And that's what those letters of support will do for your project.
Andrea, what are some of the mistakes people can make when applying for grants?
There's probably 2 or 3 big ones that I see over and over again. One is that not taking enough time, and I think, you know, that if your career as an artist is your full-time career, you can find the time, you know, and that 6 weeks might be a little bit, you know, for somebody like me that's a grant writer that's writing for a lot of people, I actually do need that time. If you're working on it yourself, you know, you may be able to sit down and smash one out in a couple of weeks. The other two that are really big ones is not understanding the budget, because the budgets are not like when you're doing budgets for banking or when you do your tax. They have to have a zero at the end. So your income plus the amount of money you're asking for with the grant must be exactly the same figure as your expenses. And a lot of people don't understand that because that's not like basic bookkeeping. You know, bookkeeping for a business is very different to that, and people really struggle with understanding that one. So that's why I say Excel spreadsheet is really handy to have, because you can do all those calculations in that. And if you're really a whiz with Excel, you could probably even set up formulas to help with that process. So that's a real biggie. Another one is not getting those letters of support in time. So, you know, really making sure that that's the first thing that you actually do. So think about who are a bunch of people that I might be able to get letters from. And I suggest to my clients, keep a list. Because if you're going to be applying for a few grants over your career, which you probably will, you know, just keep adding to the list. So, you know, you work at a new venue, they love you, they have you back 3 or 4 times. You could approach that person and say, hey, occasionally we might apply for arts grants. Can we add you to our list of people that will, you know, potentially write letters of support for us? And having more than you need. So a lot of grants say you need 3 letters of support or 5. If it's 3, I would probably ask 5 people, and then if all 5 come back with a letter, that's fantastic. You pick the best 3. But if someone doesn't come back, you've still got probably the amount that you need for that. So they're probably the 2 biggies that people make mistakes with. And I think after you make that mistake once, you never make it again, because it's a learning experience. And a lot of the peer assessors who assess the grants will come back with that feedback to you and say, oh, you didn't add the budget up quite right, and, you know, this is how you do it the next time, or, you know, you didn't show enough support from your industry. So next time, you know, you didn't get the grant, but next time. So I think it's probably a one-time mistake that people make, and they'd never make it again. So do you have any more questions, Lucas?
I think we were touching on something when we were talking before. Just with Zubrishan applying for a grant, obviously it'd be great to have support for our creative ventures. In applying for the grants, one of my questions is, it seems like a lot of work. Is it worth it? In the sense that you are going to learn a lot when you do these grants. So I guess it would be worth it. But in saying that, what am I trying to say? When you are... Because applying for the grants, you want to include the community. So we're talking about the community. And it's just like with your music, how do you, sort of justify with the grant and the community?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. So often what happens, some grants say there has to be a community aspect. So something like a touring grant. So there are federal grants around contemporary music touring, and that particularly is focused on getting artists out into regional areas. In those grants, it's really good to put in something like, for example, going to the local school and doing a songwriting workshop. And that's a community aspect to that grant that doesn't really take much time out of your day, has a great benefit for that local community, and you can do that. When it's something like recording your own music or promoting your music, sometimes people are like, well, how does that benefit the community, and how can I put that in? Yet, you know, the grant seems to say there needs to be a cultural and community benefit. Really, the cultural benefit is because it's upskilling you as a band. It's helping you get that next step in your career, and that has a lot of benefits to the community that maybe people don't really realise. So, for example, that's then adding to the local economy. Your band's doing better, you go and spend at the local Coles and, you know, in your local community, because you're making more income out of your band. It's helping you become little bit more focused as a professional. So there's those offshoot benefits to the community. But there's also the community networking and learning. So when you learn something, it might be that you get a grant to promote your next single. You engage a really fantastic marketing person that has specific music industry knowledge around releasing, and that person, you learn heaps off that person. One of the things that you will do is naturally tell other musicians. So it might be just a simple, hey, if you're wanting to release your single and you've got a budget, go see this person because they were great and this is what they did for us. But it might be just those little tips, like, you know, well, you know, if you're going to be approaching the media, these are the assets that you need and this is what we learnt out of that process. So they're the community types of things that they're looking for. And you can absolutely put them in and say, you know, we're part of a network of bands in our local community, and the learnings that we will gain from that we will pass on to the other bands in our local network.
Because there's different types of grants.
Yes,
That's
correct.
the thing. So because when you said about there might be a community-based grant or some other grant, so it's and they come out at different times. Is that?
Yes,
yeah, so different
that's
grants,
correct.
right? So it's,
Yeah. So, for example, local councils often have community grants, and they're more for community groups, less for artists. But then they have the artist grants as well. Up here on the Sunshine Coast and in the regions, they have something called RADF, which is Regional Arts Development Fund. The other states don't have as much of that stuff, so we're really lucky in Queensland that we have those. And they're dedicated grants for artists, and they fall under that professional development or that project grants that I was mentioning earlier, and they're really dedicated for artists. But you could pair with a community group and run a gig, say. So you could go to your local Lions Club or Apex or someone like that and say, hey, we want to get us and 3 or 4 other bands together, run a community gig out at a little local hall. That community group could be the driver of that grant, but you benefit as well because it gets you in front of a new audience. So that's another way that you could do things as well.
Andrea, what do you enjoy about grant writing?
Really what I enjoy about it is, I guess, 2 things. I get to see and be part of the background of some amazing community projects and some amazing artist projects. So I work not only for the music industry, I do work for theatre companies and visual artists as well, and I get to see their dreams and goals come into fruition, and that's fantastic. But I also get all the little behind the scenes sneak peeks of stuff. So my Facebook Messenger and my email and my phone messaging is full of photos and videos from excited people working on their projects, and that feels really good when you get to see something happening for somebody and them getting that next step in their career, but also knowing that I get to see stuff before other people do. It's great.
Excellent. Cool.
Thank you so much to Peace Run Records, to Sunshine Coast Creative Alliance, to Councillor David Law, to Racy and Lucky, Soul Bar, all our wonderful organisations and the people that are sending great support messages to our community, to Justin Shepherd for his wonderful filming, and to Donna Nelson for being a runner and helping us out so much today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you to our speakers, Andrea Kerwin of Peace Run Records, Andy Ward of University of the Sunshine Coast, Cindy Vogels of Racy and Lucky, Eric Kanji, Justin Shepherd of Shepherd Red Productions, and Zabrishan. Turn Up would also like to thank Smart Grants, Q Music and the Queensland Government, Sunshine Coast Creative Alliance, Sunshine Coast Council, Soul Bar, Shepherd Red Productions, Peace Run Records, Racy and Lucky. Thank you for all your help in this project and your ongoing assistance to Turn Up. Thanks also go to Creative Alliance Australia, Live Music Office and Q Music for helping to promote these videos.